Welcome to Politics Unplugged. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Marshall Zellinger. Just more than a week until Election Day, and Donald Trump back in Colorado this weekend. His stop in Jefferson County yesterday, his 10th campaign stop in 6 different trips to Colorado since July. By comparison, Hillary Clinton has made 3 stops in 2 different trips in that same time period.
Now, there are also dozens of big races that we will be watching on election night that could impact the makeup of the state legislature here in Colorado. In fact, there could be a shift of power depending upon what happens over the next 9 days. So here to discuss the local and national issues up for grabs in this upcoming election are former Republican State Representative Amy Stevens and Democratic strategist Steve Welchert. So we thank you both for being here with us.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Let's start with election night being 9 days away. What are the biggest issues we should still be watching in the presidential race? And knowing this new FBI email issue is back in the news again for Hillary Clinton.
I'm not sure that, I certainly don't know the facts yet about the case, so I can't really comment specifically, but I think it's going to be just a little bit more of the same. The hum at this point for voters is to tune out all this kind of din and noise, and I think it's kind of fairly well baked in who people are going to vote for.
Yep, I'd agree. I think this is really about turnout and, as we discussed, what people are comfortable with. Am I going to go to my vote center? Am I hand-bringing my ballot? Republicans, I think, are behind in terms of voting right now, but I think you're going to see a lot turn out on the very day to their voting center.
And what do you think is the big draw for turnout, especially here in our state? Is it the presidential election? Is there a ballot issue? Is there a race here that...
I think you're all of the above. I think some are specifically going to turn out for Trump. I think you're going to see people say, no, it's down ballot. We want to try for the Senate. We've got to keep the Senate. Or it could be an issue like the minimum wage or aid in dying. And so you're going to see people turn out for very different reasons. This is going to be a very different election.
I'm with Amy. There'll be very different pockets of people that turn out for different topics.
Will the local races have more votes than the presidential race?
Well, I don't think it'll be that big a disparity, but I think there could be an undervote in the presidential, which usually never happens. Usually the presidential race is #1, then you get a lower turnout number for down ticket. I think because Clinton and Trump have so much baggage, each of them individually, that there'll be some drop-off there. It'll be lower than 2012 in my view.
At the state capitol right now, Republicans have that 1-seat advantage in the Senate, and in the House, it's controlled by the Democrats by 3. Right. Because of the presidential race, some key local races have gone under the radar, but brought to the forefront in this new Democratic political ad.
When I became governor, I knew we had to protect our Colorado way of life. It's why I need a good team in the state Senate, like Rachel Zenzinger, Daniel Kagan, Janice May, and Tom Sullivan.
All right, there's a strategy to those names that he's mentioned. Amy?
Well, that's your makeup, really, of a Senate majority for Democratic Party. And really, they are close races. I mean, even in terms of if we look at the breakout on R's, D's, unaffiliated, how much money's been raised, I think most of your Democratic candidates have, in a way, outraised, but not by tons. You're going to have, I think, again, we're talking turnout and how that's all going to play out. Now, I think, remember in 2012, in 2010, when I was in, we had a swing back and forth. You have a couple seats like that. You have the Tony Exum, Kit Rupay seat in House District 17. We held on for 2 years, went over to Democrats for 2 years, we got back. Now it's those, there are about 2 seats in the House, you're going to find those in play.
But in the Senate, though, with that 1-seat edge, based on that ad, if the Wood-Zenzinger race flips and the other races hold, that what John Hickenlooper was planting those signs for, then suddenly the Democrats have control.
That ad is unprecedented. I mean, Democrats you could knock over with a slight breeze about how shocked they are that Hickenlooper did the ad, #1. #2, ads with multiple candidates almost never work. This ad works. It's really remarkable, I think. It works pretty well. Driving name ID is what it's doing, and it's adding Hickenlooper's very positive name ID to these candidates. As Amy said, of those 4 Senate races, Democrats have to win 3 of them to get majority, and I think that's fairly likely this cycle. On the House side, boy, they're +3 now. Yeah. I think they could go as high as +6, maybe. Crisanta Duran from Denver will be the new Speaker of the House, presumably, and so, there could be a bit of a wave here for Democrats in the legislature.
There's been a lot of outside money that has come in particularly to these state races. I mean, these are names that you
Right.
would not normally hear on television. Talk about the amount of money that's been brought into these races here.
Well, I don't think that's uncommon. I think as we saw in books like The Blueprint and others, you have a very specific group of people that really target some of these races to get the majority. The thing that I would caution, though, in some of that, and I think this is about turnout, but it's also about how you campaign. And I want to talk about the Kevin Priola seat for a moment with Janice May.
Right.
These are two people who know what they're doing. They have both served in the legislature. Kevin is a very, very hard campaigner, as is Janice. Those are going to be your machines, how people hit the ground and turn out. And we know from having been, and you know, dealing with our Republican majority and Democratic majority, things are shifting. Polling is shifting. Every day you're making decisions about what money you're going to put a race into because maybe the polling looks worse on one race and you move your money quickly to another.
I'll tell you how important it is. I was with Congressman Perlmutter this morning.
Yeah.
He had just come back from that district, which is Brighton and North Aurora. He's going back there this weekend.
Yeah.
That's how big a deal it is. That he sees people on the ground all the time for both candidates. They both work very hard. It'll be a turnout operation.
Yeah.
And frankly, the Latino vote in Aurora will probably determine the outcome of that race.
Yes.
If I'm remembering Janice May's last race correctly, she had lost by 106 votes. So that's how tight that area could make that race. Now, this summer, Ann and I interviewed John Hickenlooper about what would happen if the Democrats took control of the Senate, and then they'd have the House and the Senate. What would go through that hadn't gone through before? He mentioned the hospital provider fee, which in his terms would free up money for transportation. I know in the Senate, repealing the death penalty would be big if Lucia Guzman was Senate president. Is that fair if the Democrats control everything, that these things that couldn't get through this year suddenly start going through?
We've had this every 2 years. So let's just say the word recall. I want to caution everybody, would you please keep your heads and your wits about you? Is it for one party to be able to go, we've got all the power? I mean, the R's haven't necessarily in the last 10 had that. But what we have seen in D-controlled legislature and, of course, governorship is that people tend to go nuts. They tend to try to push through and push it through fast. And I would caution that this is where trouble happens. You may have a fractured voting group now in this state because of Trump and because of the presidentials. You won't when it comes to an issue.
Well, you saw that TV ad because, I think, of the hospital payer fee. That really is why Hickenlooper did that ad. Look, I was the governor's lobbyist, the Democratic governor's lobbyist, back when it was a veto-proof Republican majority. Yes. So I know very well what it's like to have one power party coming at you. So it's a dynamic that everyone has to be careful of. But I do think there are some issues that will pop through. If you're Hickenlooper, you have to say, well, gosh, are things going to show up on my desk that I don't want to see? Because in the past, a one-vote Republican majority of the Senate would stop some things he didn't want to see. He'll have to do a really good job of kind of lobbying inside the state capitol to make sure that doesn't happen to him this time.
And I think you're going to find with lobbyists, too, they, too, say, oh, could we have a balanced legislature? Because it really does keep some issues here and here away from the governor, where you can focus here towards the middle, try to get some things done and get it on the governor's desk.
Yeah, lobbying will be different.
What's one of those issues that he doesn't want to see?
Oh, golly. I don't know.
Asking the tough questions and we don't get the answers. The congressional race, Morgan Carroll, Mike Hoffman, where do you stand on that?
Who's going to win, I think is the question.
Oh, gosh. We're down to the wire, I think, on this one.
I think Morgan Carroll has begun to pull away. I really do. I mean,
you do?
Yeah, Joe McCloskey had 1/3 the money she's got and came within 2 points of beating Kaufman in 2012. Hillary Clinton will win this district overwhelmingly as a Democrat. And so if Morgan Carroll can just be within a couple points of Hillary Clinton, that's real trouble for Mike Kaufman.
I think we're back to, though, the turnout. There is no one who campaigns harder than Mike Kaufman. And Ann is speaking Spanish along, at every stop that he can. This is a formidable, formidable candidate. I'm holding my breath. I mean, I think this is a huge
One thing we haven't talked about is kind of ground game. Who has boots in the ground?
Ground
the Republicans don't have it statewide, but in the 6th district they do.
They do.
They do have a ground game in the 6th, and that may make a difference for Mike Kaufman.
Yeah, could.
We will see.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Fun.